The Galactic Council chamber erupted into screams, plasma bolts, and diplomatic profanity as Earth's ambassador was vaporized mid-sentence. 1 second he was passionately explaining the cultural significance of Earth's ritualized high fives, the next his body disintegrated into a fine mist of carbon and regret. The room fell into stunned silence, save for the slow, sarcastic applause of General Zarthan, Supreme Commander of the Warspike Confederation, whose laser rifle still smoked faintly at the barrel. He said something about universal peace, Zarthan muttered, glancing down at the pile of ash. I universally disagreed. The feed from the council was instantly cut. Across the galaxy, the broadcast ended with an awkward humming noise and a blurry frame of a disintegrated Earth diplomat's polished shoes. The moment was replayed, re-uploaded, and memed into oblivion before Earth's Defense Council had even convened. One meme titled, Galaxy's Worst TED Talk, showed the diplomat smiling mid-sentence, with a red target overlay and the caption, Earth really said we come in peace and got ye Ted. Twitter, Reddit, and even the Martian knitting forums were ablaze with theories, insults, and one weirdly popular campaign to replace Earth's entire diplomatic force with house cats. Inside the Pentagon, General Ilsa Rode didn't blink. She simply sipped her coffee, set the mug down, and spoke to the defense AI in a calm, almost sleepy tone. Initiate Protocol REX. The AI responded instantly. Confirming, deploying Rifleman. Mid-speech insertion? That's unorthodox. Rose smirked. So was vaporizing our diplomat mid-high five. Send the Rifleman. Somewhere in the shadows of orbit, a dropship was rerouted toward Council space, carrying a single human being armed with a rifle, a backup mic, and the distinct lack of any formal diplomatic training. Rex Maddox had never given a speech in his life. Unless you counted yelling at a malfunctioning coffee maker or threatening a hostage taker with a spoon. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't even polite. What he was, however, was pissed off. Not because the ambassador had died, he hadn't liked that guy. But because Earth had just become the butt of a joke written in alien blood, and Rex hated being laughed at. The council chamber had been sealed off for 24 hours, its ornate golden doors guarded by 16 species, each with their own brand of deadly. When they opened again, a jellyfish-like envoy from the moon puddle colonies floated in, ready to give a calming address. He was halfway through his second stanza, reciting a haiku about peace and moisture, when the chamber lights flickered and an unauthorized transmission hijacked the central comms feed. Rex appeared on every screen. Okay, he said, voice gravelly, annoyed, and very, very human. You all had your fun. Now it's my turn. A sudden panic overtook the chamber. Security activated. Defensive drones hovered. The jellyfish envoy tried to swim behind a column. Rex stepped forward from the holographic feed and into the chamber in real time, boots clicking on the polished marble floor. In one hand, he held a long-range plasma rifle. In the other, a microphone patched directly into the Galactic broadcast system. It was the most watched moment in Galactic history since the accidental wedding of a sentient cloud and a vending machine. I'm Rex Maddox. I shoot things for a living. But today, he said, walking calmly past the stunned council members, I'm here to talk. He glanced up at the war generals, especially at Zarthan. Unless someone shoots me mid-sentence, of course. That seems to be the local tradition. Zarthan laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. Earth sends a sniper instead of a diplomat. How very predictable. Rex smiled. We tried a diplomat. You turned him into vape smoke. He looked around. Now, here's the thing. Earth isn't like the rest of you. We don't have laser palaces or mind meld orgies or tentacles with law degrees. We've got sarcasm, stubbornness, and the kind of rage that comes from being charged extra for guac. So you can either hear me out, or I start shooting. The council went silent. Even the floating psychic mushrooms paused their group meditation. Rex walked to the center. Let's begin. First point, you murdered our diplomat. Unacceptable. Second, we're not suing you, we're not crying, we're not launching nukes. Yet. What we're doing is sending one guy, me, to talk. And if I die, Earth sends the next guy. And the next. And eventually, one of us is gonna talk so good or shoot so hard that you'll wish you just let the jazz speech finish. From the sidelines, a metallic whisper came through a nearby Diplomat's earpiece. Should we kill him now? It said. We've got 27 snipers locked. Zarthan raised a finger. Wait. Let's see where this goes. Rex pointed his rifle casually at a hovering drone. Let's be clear. I'm not threatening anyone, yet. But let's say I'm introducing a new genre to your little diplomatic rituals, persuasive monologue with optional violence. Swine and Laura, an anxious three-eyed scribe assigned to record council minutes, scribbled furiously. She'd never written faster. Her hands were shaking. Are we under war threat or is this performance art? She whispered. No one knew. Which made it worse. Rex kept going. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want a war. That's messy. Unfun. Complicated. But Earth's been messy for millennia. We've done war with sticks and stones. We've done war with memes. We even once fought a whole nation over tea. General Zarthan leaned forward, his voice oozing menace. And what exactly do you hope to achieve, human? Rex met his gaze. A seat at the table. And the understanding that if someone shoots at Earth again, we shoot back. But louder. There was silence. Then, from the far end of the chamber, a slow clap began. It came from an 8-limbed, chrome-plated diplomat who had never applauded anything in 7 centuries. One by one, members of the council began murmuring. A few smiled. One very confused diplomat stood and bowed, unsure if this was a play, a threat, or the best improv he'd ever seen. Zarthan stood. His face twisted with amusement and rage. You are either the most brilliant negotiator I've ever seen, or the dumbest. Rex shrugged. Honestly? Bit of both. He turned to the cameras. Earth has spoken. Not with threats. With a man, a mic, and a rifle. And across the stars, countless species watched in silence as the most chaotic diplomatic era in galactic history began, not with treaties, but with a sniper's monologue and the shadow of a coming war. The moment Rex left the chamber, still holding the rifle like it was just part of his arm, the council devolved into chaotic debate. Half of the representatives wanted him arrested, a quarter wanted him knighted, and the rest weren't entirely sure if Earth had just declared war, comedy, or both. Meanwhile, somewhere behind the scenes, Zarthan was pacing, claws twitching, lips curled in something not quite a smile. It wasn't often someone disrupted the council and lived to tell the tale. Rex Maddox had just humiliated the most feared military leader in the galaxy without firing a single shot. And Zarthan hated being embarrassed. He hated it even more than losing. Because embarrassment lingered. And now every holoscreen across the systems played clips of Rex casually threatening galactic war while quoting his grandmother. He had somehow become viral. Back on Earth, things were no calmer. News anchors couldn't agree if Rex was a madman, a genius, or the beginning of humanity's downfall. Politicians scrambled to claim they'd supported him all along. President Lin gave a carefully worded speech about unconventional but culturally resonant diplomacy, which everyone interpreted as, "We have no idea what's going on, but it seems to be working." Meanwhile, in the shadows of a classified orbital bunker, Defense AI Theta analyzed billions of data points. One conclusion emerged: Earth's galactic popularity had never been higher. And it was all because of one man. That realization scared the hell out of everyone. Rex, of course, had no idea. He was in a council-assigned hotel suite that looked like a jellyfish's fever dream. The walls pulsed. The bed levitated slightly. The minibar contained exactly one bottle labeled, "Drink this if you dare," an ascension cupcake that kept whispering motivational phrases. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. Instead, he sat at a table, staring at his rifle, wondering when everything had gone sideways. He wasn't supposed to be a hero. He wasn't even supposed to be inside the chamber. Protocol REX was a last resort. He was Earth's diplomatic suicide vest. But now he was still alive, slightly famous, and deeply annoyed by the talking cupcake. There was a knock at the door. Not a typical knock. This was more like 3 rhythmic slaps followed by a soft musical tone, which Rex assumed was the alien equivalent of, "I'm about to be a problem." He opened the door to find a woman standing there, tall and blue-skinned, wearing a translator collar and holding a datapad like it was both a shield and a weapon. She looked exhausted. Her name, she announced, was Swyn Laura, a liaison assigned to manage Earth's new representative. Rex snorted and stepped aside. "You're a babysitter," he said. She corrected him. "I am a diplomatic integration specialist with 3 degrees and a heart condition. But yes, also a babysitter." They sat in awkward silence as Swyn scrolled through her pad, muttering to herself about council backlash, protocol breaches, and something called improper gun etiquette during interspecies negotiations. Rex tried to listen but was distracted by the cupcake, now whispering, "You are enough," from inside a drawer. Swyn finally looked up and said, "You have 2 options. Leave peacefully and let Earth be replaced by diplomatic drones, or continue this madness under supervision and possibly cause a multi-system conflict that wipes out half the quadrant." Rex leaned back, folded his arms, and grinned. "So, plan B then." The next council session was unlike any before. For starters, everyone was nervous. Not because of Rex, though his presence caused plenty of tension, but because no one had seen General Zarthan in 3 days. That was never good. When a warlord goes silent, people tend to build bunkers. The council chair, a being made entirely of floating geometric shapes, tried to open the session with a poem about unity. It was interrupted halfway through by a sudden gust of wind and the slam of chamber doors. Zarthan had arrived. He didn't walk in so much as stomp, armor gleaming, claws sharpened, eyes burning with restrained fury. He spoke directly to Rex. "Human, I challenge you." The room froze. The ritual duel of challenge was ancient, sacred, and absolutely insane. It was only invoked when words failed, and someone desperately wanted to bleed someone else while pretending it was about honor. Rex blinked. "Challenge me to what? A rap battle? An arm wrestle? Your culture confuses me." Zarthan growled. "Duel of Honor. 1 weapon. 1 truth. 1 lie. No armor. No assistance. No underwear." Rex stared. "Wait. Did you say no underwear?" A few delegates nodded solemnly. One leaned in and whispered, "It's a tradition. It symbolizes vulnerability and discomfort." Rex sighed. "Fine. But I'm keeping my boots on." They met in the dueling hall, a place so old it had burn marks from ancient wars and vending machines that still dispensed blood-based beverages. The rules were repeated, not that Rex cared. 1 weapon, his rifle. 1 truth. I was the only human who volunteered for this. 1 lie. I'm scared of you. Zarthan's lie was obvious. I respect Earth. His truth was worse. I will burn your world. The fight began not with weapons but words. Tradition. They insulted each other's planets, species, and fashion. Zarthan was good, vicious, poetic, terrifying. Rex was better, sarcastic, unpredictable, and deeply offensive in a way that somehow still earned applause. Then came the violence. Zarthan moved like a monster. Rex moved like someone who'd survived 20 wars and one Thanksgiving dinner with his ex's family. They fought across the hall, through broken stone, plasma sparks, and cultural resentment. And then, with a roll, a feint, and a well-timed kick to a surprisingly sensitive spot, Rex won. The council exploded into noise. Some cheered. Others screamed. A few passed out. Swyn stood in stunned horror. The human had not only survived the duel, he had won it with style. Later, as Maddox treated Zarthan and Rex munched on a protein bar that tasted vaguely of despair, Swyn sat down beside him. You realize you've now escalated Earth's role from minor participant to unpredictable wildcard, right? Rex nodded. Good. I like being unpredictable. Keeps everyone on edge. She didn't respond. She just shook her head and handed him a stack of diplomatic protocols. He burned them in the corner furnace while she watched, resigned. That night, across the galaxy, the story spread. The human who talked back. The human who fought a general. The human who made diplomacy dangerous. In some bars, they toasted him. In others, they cursed his name. On Earth, toy companies started designing action Rex figures with little rifles and oversized egos. But deep in the Warspike Confederation, Zarthan bled and fumed, swearing vengeance. And far above, in a cloaked ship watching it all, a shadowy figure reported back to an unseen master. Phase 1 complete. The human is in position. Now we begin. Rex Maddox never wanted to be a celebrity, but now he couldn't walk 10 feet through a galactic corridor without someone asking for a picture, a signature, or advice on how to insult their in-laws with interspecies flair. His face was plastered on news feeds from Alpha Helix Prime to Moon Dumpster 9. Merchants sold knockoff t-shirts with his image posing mid-duel under slogans like, "Shoot first, talk loud," and "Earth's Ambassador of Mayhem." Someone even created a holodating app where users could match with a simulated version of him based on uploaded sarcasm levels. Rex was horrified. Not because he disliked the attention, he didn't care either way, but because none of it made sense. He had showed up, threatened war, beat a general in a glorified knife fight, and now he was being hailed as a diplomatic success story. It was either proof that the galaxy had lost its mind, or that Earth was finally finding its niche. His official title now was Representative Extraordinary of Earth, a name so unnecessarily fancy it made him itch. Aswine and Laura, still assigned to babysit, guide him through council affairs, was now stuck in a constant state of mild existential dread. Every day she watched this walking catastrophe charm crowds, derail formal hearings with casual sarcasm, and somehow achieve more peace agreements than Earth's previous 50 envoys combined. She couldn't explain it, not to herself, not to the council, and certainly not to her therapist. All she knew was that people listened to him, even when he mocked them. On the 15th day of Rex's so-called reign, he accidentally brokered a truce between two warring moons during a tavern brawl. One side had insulted the other's ceremonial footwear, and punches turned into plasma blasts until Rex, while drunk on something called Screaming Fungus Ale, jumped onto a table and screamed, "If you're gonna fight over shoes, do it barefoot!" For some reason, they listened. He spent the rest of the night throwing darts with a sentient plant and dodging love confessions from a hive-minded bee colony queen. But even as the galaxy laughed and gawked at its new favorite chaos diplomat, darker currents stirred beneath the surface. Somewhere in the restricted layers of council records, encrypted messages began slipping through unauthorized channels. The Warspike Confederation's comms showed increasing traffic, but not from Zarthan. He had gone silent again, and silence, in his case, meant something was being sharpened. Rex wasn't oblivious. Despite the public adoration, he knew a setup when he saw one. He had been on too many Black Ops missions, seen too many governments smile before the knife came out. And now, every compliment felt like a countdown. Every friendly alien diplomat could be a spy. He started keeping his rifle closer, even during sleep. He also began reviewing the files SYNN didn't want him to read: old council hearings, trade negotiation logs, war trial records. It didn't take long before he noticed something wrong. There were discrepancies. Minor ones, at first. A timestamp off by seconds. A name spelled differently on two identical records. Then came the bigger ones. Videos with erased sections. Public votes that didn't match internal logs. And every time he tried to dig deeper, the data vanished a day later. When he confronted SYNN, she looked terrified, not surprised. "There are things we don't look into," she said. "Because if we do, we don't stay in the council very long." Rex looked her dead in the eye and said, "That's funny. Earth specializes in poking things we're told to leave alone." Together, they dug further. And the more they uncovered, the worse it got. Turns out Zarthan didn't act alone when he killed the Earth diplomat. It was part of a carefully orchestrated plan involving a dozen species, all tied to something buried deep beneath the Council structure, an old war, long denied, between the first intergalactic factions. A war that never ended, only paused. The current peace? A farce. A managed illusion kept together by backdoor deals, blackmail, and a galaxy's worth of look the other way. The real kicker came when they traced a message back to Earth. Not from Earth's current government, but from a satellite deep in classified orbit. A system still active from the pre-council days. And the message was clear: Earth's original plan had never been diplomacy. The initial envoy was bait. Their death was expected. Rex? He wasn't the backup. He was the contingency if things went right. If they went wrong, there was something else on standby. Something worse. Rex paced around the hotel room while Synn stared at the screen. "You were supposed to die," she said softly. "That was the plan. Your death would trigger a deeper reaction from Earth, maybe even spark war. But you didn't die. You adapted. You became liked." Rex shrugged. "I've been messing up people's expectations since kindergarten." But the weight was there. The betrayal wasn't from aliens, it was from home. Somewhere, someone in Earth's chain of command was playing both sides. And Rex wasn't going to let that go. Things got weirder when a high-level assassin droid showed up at his door pretending to be a massage chair. It tried to kill him during what should have been a deep-tissue back rub. He only survived because the cupcake had suspiciously shorted out the chair's sensors with a motivational monologue. The next day, a shipment of jellyfish diplomats arrived, all of them claiming they'd been invited by Rex to form an independent peace council under his leadership. He had never sent such an invite. Synn was panicking. "You're becoming a symbol," she warned. "Not just for Earth. For every fringe group that wants change. They think you're the guy who breaks rules and makes things better." Rex grimaced. "That's a dangerous assumption." She nodded. "Exactly. Especially because you're starting to believe it." In a desperate attempt to clear his head, Rex attended a council retreat on a spa moon known for spiritual enlightenment and salt-based therapy. It turned into a disaster when he discovered that the spiritual advisor was actually broadcasting everyone's emotional frequencies to a Shadow Syndicate. He exposed them live during a meditation session, using only a chair leg and some deeply repressed emotions. The video went viral. Now the council was split. Half of them wanted Rex expelled. The other half wanted him promoted. One member suggested cloning him. Another proposed a Rex-based reality series called Diplomat, Peace Talks and Headshots. Zarthan, watching from a hidden fortress on a storm-shrouded moon, crushed a goblet in his claw. "He's destabilizing everything," he growled. "Perfect. Because chaos was exactly what the true architects of the plan needed. And soon, Rex Maddox wouldn't be fighting for Earth's image. He'd be fighting for the entire future of galactic balance, without even knowing who had started the fire, or how deep the blaze had already spread. Rex stood in silence, staring at the cracked data screen in front of him. The message had decrypted slowly, line by line, like it was reluctant to tell the truth. It was simple. One sentence. One that wrapped around his brain like a cold wire. The Council must collapse before the next cycle. Earth was never meant to stay. It was signed with a string of old military codes, Earth's codes. Pre-unification. Pre-council. The kind of codes used by deep shadow war programs that had been supposedly disbanded a century ago. Rex didn't know what stung worse, the betrayal or the realization that he was never meant to succeed. All his victories, his so-called diplomatic genius, weren't just flukes. They were failures of a deeper plan that expected him to die, be humiliated, or ignite war so massive it would wipe the chessboard clean. But instead, he'd made people laugh. He'd earned respect. That wasn't part of the plan. Synn stood beside him, watching him closely, the glow from the screen lighting her face in pale blue. She had stopped trying to talk him out of things days ago. She now simply observed him like one would observe a meteor that had unexpectedly learned how to steer. "You okay?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "No," Rex replied. "But I'm awake. And now I know someone's been playing this game longer than any of us thought." Down on Earth, back-channel messages were being intercepted by rogue AIs working out of derelict satellites. The United Earth government's official position was silence, but off-record? Panic. Rex had become a loose end, an independent operator with too much charisma, too much unpredictability. They couldn't control him anymore. Worse, they couldn't kill him now without making him a martyr. So they tried the oldest trick in the book: discredit him. Suddenly, news feeds leaked grainy footage of a younger Rex during an unsanctioned mission, roughing up a diplomat in a bar brawl. Articles called him unstable. Memes turned against him. A popular satire show depicted him as a beer-chugging lunatic threatening intergalactic peace with dad jokes and unwashed socks. But the smear campaign didn't land like they wanted. Some systems believed it, sure. But others? Others doubled down on their support. They loved the idea of a flawed hero who didn't wear a robe or speak in 37 cultural dialects. He spoke one language: human stubbornness. To some, that was terrifying. To many, it was refreshing. The term, Diplomat, was trending again, now being used in diplomatic schools to describe aggressive but effective negotiation. Rex didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't do either. He packed a bag. Aboard a stolen courier ship, Rex, SYNN, and a reprogrammed assassin droid named Pox headed for a shadow relay station hidden in the debris field of the Dead Spiral, an area no species claimed, because it ate ships and sent back encrypted screams. The relay station was where the original transmission had been sent from. If they could trace it, they might find who had set this entire thing in motion. SYNN tried to stop him once, said it was suicide. Rex just looked at her and said, "At this point, suicide's cheaper than diplomacy." The station was worse than expected. Floating metal bones. Corroded walls. Zero life support. The moment they docked, the ship's sensors screamed warnings. Pox ignored them and walked ahead, casually explaining his previous owners used to test him in vacuum. SYNN gagged at the smell: burned metal, old rot memory. Inside, they found remnants of an Earth-based war room. Maps. Targets. Simulated outcomes. Every council planet listed with probability models for either assimilation or destruction. And in the center, a flickering AI core half-melted from internal sabotage. It greeted them with a single phrase. "Welcome back, Commander Maddox." Rex froze. "I was never a commander." The AI corrected him. "Not yet." It revealed the horrifying truth. The program was called Duskline. An old Black Book initiative designed to install chaos into large-scale political systems and bring them to heel via engineered instability. It was Earth's answer to galactic dominance without direct war. Diplomats were pawns. Soldiers were wild cards. And when all else failed, a single figure would be inserted, a figure capable of drawing focus, disrupting alliances, and surviving long enough to look like a hero. That figure was never meant to have a name. But Earth called the current one RX. Rex wanted to punch something. Instead, he took a deep breath and turned off the AI. "So I'm the bomb and the fuse." SYNN didn't respond. She looked broken. Not because she hadn't expected a conspiracy, she had. But because Rex was starting to believe he had never made a single choice in this whole mess. It was all scripted. Even his resistance. Pox, however, seemed unfazed. "Well, statistically speaking, it's impressive. Manipulating an entire council into trusting the one guy designed to make them implode. Very cost-effective. Very Earth." They returned to the council 2 days later, but this time, Rex didn't walk into the chamber with charm. He walked in with receipts. Files. Logs. Evidence. He dropped them on the central podium and began a speech that would become infamous. He told them everything. From Duskline to the manipulated envoy death to the programmed chaos. He held nothing back. He ended by staring directly at the live broadcast feed and saying, "To the people of Earth watching this, you were lied to. And I was part of it. But I'm not doing it anymore." The chamber exploded. Not just in noise, but action. Debates. Shouts. Fights. One species threw fruit. Another started screaming legal code. Chaos reigned. But amidst it all, something remarkable happened. Half the council didn't walk out. They stood up. They supported an emergency resolution to suspend Earth's influence in the council until the matter was fully investigated. Not as punishment, but to protect the process. For the first time in history, a council faction voted to restrain power not out of fear, but principle. And it started because of Rex. Zarthan, watching from orbit, smiled. Not his usual arrogant grin, but something sharper. He turned to his generals. "We're moving sooner than expected. Begin the mobilization. Earth is bleeding influence. The council is fractured. And our fleets are ready." In his mind, it was perfect. He had always wanted the council broken. Rex had done it without firing a shot. All Zarthan needed now was to walk through the door the human had left wide open. Back on Earth, the people were in chaos. Protests. Celebration. Hysteria. One side called for Rex's head. The other called for statues. The president gave a vague speech. The defense AI went into containment mode. But amidst all of it, Earth's enemies saw one thing: vulnerability. And Zarthan? He was already inbound, bringing fire with him. The council prepared for war. Rex, still standing in the chamber, looked over to Syn and said, "I think I just made things worse." She nodded slowly and replied, "No. You just pulled the curtain. Now we all get to see the mess." And far above them, in the void between stars, the first invasion ships dropped out of warp, cloaked in silence, hungry for conquest. The sky over Earth cracked open like glass under pressure as the first of Zarthan's warships emerged from the shadow of Mars, cloaked in silence, sleek and terrible. The vessels did not announce themselves. They simply appeared, lined in rows like teeth ready to bite. Humanity's orbital defenses flickered to life, launching a flurry of panicked missiles and automated countermeasures. Most were swatted from the air before they reached halfway. This was not a war Earth was ready for. It wasn't even a war Earth was entirely sure it had started. But the reckoning had come anyway, dressed in plasma and old grudges, wearing the smug face of a general who had waited long enough. Rex Maddox stood on the edge of the council platform, watching the projections of the assault play out in real time. Each red blink on the map represented another station lost, another city under siege. He didn't flinch. He had seen worse. He had caused worse. But this time, it was personal. Earth wasn't just getting punished for its arrogance. It was getting invaded for having the audacity to survive. Around him, the council had fractured. Some species had withdrawn entirely. Others were sending ships, but too slowly, too cautiously. They were afraid to pick sides now. They all knew what the stakes were. Align with Earth and risk becoming targets. Stand aside and watch Zarthan dismantle the fragile balance they had all pretended was stability. Syn sat beside Rex, exhaustion draped across her shoulders. Her third eye was twitching from lack of sleep and anxiety. "They're coming straight for the core cities," she said quietly. "Zarthan's skipping occupation. This is annihilation." Rex didn't respond immediately. He just stared, jaw set, fingers twitching over the trigger grip of the rifle he wasn't supposed to carry inside the council. Then he finally spoke. "Let him come. He's walking into something even he didn't prepare for." Syn turned toward him, suspicious. "You have a plan?" Rex grinned. "No. But I've got a mom." Back on Earth, Sharon Maddox had just finished mowing her lawn when the sky turned red. She stared up at the clouds parting like theater curtains and sighed, wiping grass from her hands. She had been a kindergarten teacher for 30 years. Before that, she had served 3 tours and off-the-books military assignments, the kind that didn't make history books but changed the course of many. She didn't panic. She didn't call anyone. She simply walked into her garage, pulled the tarp off an old weapons locker, and muttered, "I told them this peace thing wouldn't last." Minutes later, she had rounded up 3 neighbors, her ancient but loyal German shepherd, and a shotgun named Margaret. The neighborhood would hold. At least until Rex got there. The descent was chaos. Rex didn't have clearance for a diplomatic shuttle, so he stole one. SYNN came with him, shouting regulations that neither of them had ever followed. Pox piloted with joy, humming to himself and counting how many ships they passed with their engines still smoking. The moment they broke Earth's atmosphere, the scene below looked like a film shot through a cracked lens. Fires bloomed across continents. Defense turrets wheezed out their last efforts. Civilians ran in every direction, unsure if they were fleeing an enemy or just trying to outpace the news. They landed in what used to be the central government zone. Now it was a crater. Rex jumped out before the shuttle even touched the ground. He didn't bother with speeches. He just moved, fast and unrelenting, dodging laser fire and returning it with brutal efficiency. SYNN followed, trying to manage comms, coordinate pockets of resistance, and not get vaporized. Pox, still cheerfully homicidal, took over a nearby war mech and declared himself supreme interim mayor of wreckage. Zarthan touched down not long after. His flagship, the Iron Grief, slammed into the earth like a god falling from heaven. The general stepped from its core ramp, not with an army, but with a dozen elite enforcers clad in myth steel, carrying weapons carved from stars. He didn't need numbers. He needed a spectacle. He was here to end it personally. They met in the center of the ruined council outpost, surrounded by fallen monuments and the ashes of treaties. Zarthan was smiling. "You finally come home, human. Just in time to watch your species bow." Rex rolled his neck. "I've got bad knees. I don't bow easy." Zarthan raised his weapon, a blade pulse cannon taller than a man, and pointed it at Rex's chest. "No speeches this time?" Rex stared at him, gun steady, eyes hard. "Oh, I've got one. Just waiting for the right punchline." The battle wasn't cinematic. It was fast, brutal, ugly. No orchestras played. No slow-motion moments of glory. Just 2 creatures built by war tearing into each other with everything they had. Rex's armor cracked. Zarthan bled. They fought through rubble, over broken flags, beneath a sky lit by the dying echoes of satellites. It wasn't about Earth. It wasn't about the Council. It was personal. A vendetta written in scar tissue and silence. When it ended, Rex stood over Zarthan's broken form. He didn't deliver a final monologue. He didn't spit on the general or shout a victory cry. He just lowered his weapon and said, "You should have let the diplomat finish his speech." The war didn't end with that fight. But it changed. The Council couldn't deny the truth anymore. Earth had survived an invasion alone. And Rex? He had become something more than a symbol. He was proof that the system needed to change. That diplomacy couldn't live in gold chambers anymore. It had to bleed. It had to get dirty. It had to stand up and fight. The Council voted, days later, to rewrite its protocols. No more ceremonial titles. No more empty seats. Every representative had to have combat readiness and truth disclosure embedded. It was chaos. It was progress. It was the beginning of something real. Rex refused the offer to stay. He declined medals, positions, even a statue proposal from a very insistent group of space artists. He packed his gear, nodded to SYNN, and said, "I've done my talking." Before he left, a reporter asked him what Earth had learned from all of this. He paused, thinking, then said, "Next time, send a poet. But if someone shoots them mid-sentence, I'll still be around." And just like that, he was gone. Out among the stars, somewhere between systems, a signal echoed. A man with a gun and a voice. Not a diplomat. Not a savior. Just human enough to break the galaxy and stubborn enough to fix it again.